Okay, so let's talk about something fascinating. Have you ever looked at a big company and wondered, what is that actually worth? I mean, it's a billion-dollar question, right? Sometimes, literally. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at a really powerful financial tool that helps us figure that out. So yeah, how do you put a price tag on an entire company? It's a question that keeps investors, CEOs, heck, entire markets up at night. And you know, it's not as simple as just adding up the cash in the bank or the value of its buildings. Oh no, the real answer is way more interesting than that. Because here's the secret. A company's value isn't really about its past, or even what it's doing right this second. It's all about the future. It's about its ability to generate cold, hard cash, down the road. It's almost like we're trying to put a value on a story that's still being written.
Right. And this whole process has a name. It's called valuation. And probably the most popular way to do it is with something called a discounted cash flow model. You'll hear people call it a DCF. The reason it's so powerful is that it cuts through all the noise and focuses on one thing, and one thing only, the actual cash a business generates. So let's dive in and see how it works.
Okay, before we start crunching numbers for our example company, let's just call it Globalco, we need to get our toolkit ready. And really, it all comes down to two key ideas that are at the heart of this whole thing. It's all about the cash you think you're going to get and the risk you have to take to get it.
And really, valuation is just a balancing act between these two things. On one side, you've got free cash flow. Think of this as the treasure, right? It's the actual cash the company spits out for all its investors, lenders, owners, everybody. Then on the other side, you've got the discount rate. This is our measure of danger, of risk. You'll often hear it called the WACC. That's WACC. It's basically a number that tells us how much we need to discount that future treasure to account for all the uncertainty between now and then.
All right, so we've got our tools, we understand cash and risk. Now comes the first big step. We have to put on our fortune teller hats, gaze into our crystal ball, and forecast Globalco's financial future.
Luckily, we have a roadmap for this. It's a pretty clear four-step process. First, we're going to figure out what the company's main operations are worth by forecasting and discounting that free cash flow. Then, we'll tack on any extra assets. After that, and this is important, we have to account for all the debt. And finally, whatever's left over, well, that's what belongs to the shareholders. Okay, first things first. We start by projecting the cash flows for just the next few years. In year one, the cash flow is actually negative. Now that's a super important detail. It means Globalco is investing a ton of money back into the business, probably to grow faster. But then, look what happens. That investment starts to pay off big time in years 2 and 3 with some really nice, positive cash flow. But wait a minute. A company like this isn't just going to pack up and go home after 3 years, right? Its value stretches way, way out into the future. So the big question is, how on earth do you capture all that future value, year 4, year 10, year 50, without having to forecast every single year forever? That would be impossible. Well, here's the clever trick. We use something called continuing value. It's a formula, and what it does is pretty magical. It takes all of the cash flows from the end of our forecast, so from year 4 all the way out to infinity, and it squishes them down into one single number. It's a way to capture the long-term value. And for Globalco, that number is huge. We're talking over 1.1 times billion dollars. So now we have all this future cash mapped out, right? We have the projections for the first 3 years, plus that massive continuing value number. But there's a catch. We all know that $1 you're promised next year isn't worth the same as $1 you have in your pocket right now. So we need a way to bring all of that future money back to today's value. And that process is called discounting. You can honestly think of it like financial time travel. And the fuel for our time machine is that risk measure we talked about earlier. Remember the WACC, the weighted average cost of capital? The higher the risk, the more fuel it takes to bring that money back to the present.
So what is the WACC really? Just think of it as the average interest rate the company has to pay to all of its investors, both its lenders and its owners, to compensate them for taking a risk on the business. So we blend the cost of its debt and the cost of its equity, and for Globalco, that number comes out to 7.8%. That's our magic number. That's our discount rate.
And this is where the magic happens. We take every single one of those future cash flows, including that giant continuing value number, and we use that 7.8% rate to shrink them back to their value today. And of course, the further out a cash flow is, the more it shrinks. When we add up all those present values, we get the total value of Globalco's operations today. And what is it? A nice round $1 billion. Okay, this is a huge moment. We found the total value of the business. This is what's called the enterprise value. But hold on, we're not quite at the finish line. We have this $1 billion pie, but who gets a slice? And how big is the slice for the actual owners, the shareholders?
And this is a really, really important point to remember. That $1 billion doesn't just belong to the stockholders. It belongs to everyone who put money into the company. And in finance, there's a pecking order. The people who lent the company money, the debt holders, they always get paid back first. The shareholders, they only get what's left.
So the math is pretty straightforward from here. To figure out what's left for the owners, we have to pay our debts first. We start with our $1 billion enterprise value. We subtract the $250 million that GlobalCo owes to its lenders, and what's left is the equity value. That comes out to $750 million.
We are so close. For the final step, we take that $750 million that belongs to the shareholders and we just divide it by the total number of shares. So for GlobalCo, that's 12.5 million shares. And that gives us our treasure, an intrinsic value of $60 per share. That's it. That's the price our model says one single share of this company is truly worth.
Whew. Okay, that was quite a journey, wasn't it? But you might be wondering, is this the only way to get to that $60 number? I mean, any good analyst will tell you you never want to rely on just one map. So let's do a quick sanity check and look at another method.
So, check this out. This is a valuation using a totally different model. This one is based on something called economic profit. Now, we're not going to get into the weeds on how it works, but just know it's another perfectly valid way to measure the value a company creates over time. The big question is, does it give us the same answer?
And here it is, the validation. Take a look. The equity value comes out to exactly the same number, $750 million. And this is the whole point. When you do it right, different but still logical valuation methods should lead you to pretty much the same place. It just gives you so much more confidence that your number is in the right ballpark.
So you can see how powerful a tool this is for figuring out what a company is worth, right here, right now. But you know, the analysis doesn't stop with just a number. The real magic isn't just in the calculation. It's in understanding what drives that value. It forces you to ask the biggest question of all. What can this company do today to create even more cash, more profit, and more value tomorrow? And that, well, that's where the real story begins.